All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to The Insider. My name's Patrick Nelson. I'm the MD at Reach, and I'll be hosting today's webcast. Today's Insider is a Meet the CEO event where we give you direct access to the CEOs of ASX-listed companies. For the featured CEOs, it's an invite-only event. You have to be put forward as a favourite stock by a funds manager at one of our Meet the Funds Manager sessions or introduced directly by our corporate team. We think it's a good structure. It gives funds managers the opportunity to put their money where their mouth is and put forward their favourite companies for discussion, and these companies come and directly present to you, so you get to make an informed and considered decision, and you get to hear from those companies directly and have the opportunity to ask them questions. So if you'd like to come along to future Meet the CEO, Meet the Funds Manager sessions, just type Insider into the question box now, and our team we'll make sure that you're invited to the upcoming sessions. Today's session will run for approximately 45 minutes, and there will be Q&A at the end of each presenter's session. So each presenter will present for around 15 minutes, and then there'll be a few minutes for Q&A. If you'd like to ask a question, simply type it into the question box. We like the sessions to be interactive, and while you've got the company CEOs here, it's a great opportunity to ask them any question about their industry, their company that you want answered. Who are Reach? Reach, if you haven't come to one of these sessions before or done a deal with Reach before, we help investors directly connect to the business they invest in or want to invest in. We help fast-growing Australian businesses access the capital they need to grow, and we're a source of high-quality deals for self-directed, sophisticated and institutional investors. This year so far, we've led numerous globally significant investment opportunities across predominantly tech, energy and commodities. And last year we were the lead manager on 28 different deals. We provide our investment network access to pre-IPOs, convertible notes, IPOs, placements, and more. The presentation that's on today is put forward by Reach. And as always with anything with Reach, it's suitable for people that are self-directed investors. So we give you the information for you to be able to analyse and make your own informed decisions. You've got the opportunity to hear and to ask questions directly from the CEOs, but we would recommend that if you're going to make an investment decision, that you do your homework beyond this. Any advice is general in nature. It doesn't consider your personal circumstances. You need to decide for yourself whether it's appropriate for you. An Australian company with the only technology that can make communities safer in remote areas, and has a platform that allows you to be able to observe information in remote areas without needing people on the ground, data cables or power cords. A very interesting business. Spectur yesterday announced a record high sales pipeline. And I'm sure Gerard will comment on this, but Gerard, I'll leave the floor with you. You should have control.
Super. Thank you very much, Patrick. I appreciate the introduction, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share what I think is a very exciting story for Spectur and an interesting one as well. There we go. Clicking my way through. So who is Spectur? We are, as Patrick mentioned, about making communities safer, and we focus on remote and unpowered areas, and we do this by providing a solution that can both sense a problem through a variety of different sensors, make a decision using complex machine rules or artificial intelligence, and then take an action. And it can do all of those things without being required to be cabled in any way. What does that look like? I mentioned before, we don't need people, power, or data cables. It's an end-to-end solution. So we're not just looking at trying to do one element of the problem. We're looking to how do we actually solve the challenges that our customers have around related to making communities safer. It's relatively unique, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And we're a very proven business that has a large market opportunity to roll out. And I'll expand on those a little bit more in a moment too. So as I mentioned before, simple things to think about Spectur is no people required, no data cables, no power cords. The challenges we solve are around things such as security, safety, warning systems, remote communications, solar-powered AI platforms for smart cities, a lot of things where if you've got power and data, they're relatively straightforward, or people, but if you don't have any of those things, they're really quite difficult. And the unfortunate challenge around making communities safer is they are neither becoming safer, nor are people's perceptions of that safety are going in the right direction, which unfortunately creates a greater need for Spectur and the solutions that we provide. So what does this actually look like in a practical sense? And I'll give you an example. This on the left of the screen, you can see an example of one of our systems. You can see they're solar powered, and they have a variety of different things on a relatively large pole. So these systems in the field, the hardware, they can sense. So typically they use cameras up to 4 with up to 360-degree vision, many different types of camera, but also other sensors. For example, we have tagged shark sensors, or we have motion detectors and the like. So they can sense, they can think, and we use artificial intelligence both on edge processors in the field, so on the device, and also in the cloud as well, which I'll mention in a moment. Those devices can then make complex decisions based on the information that they are sensing and the rules that they have been set to work within, and then the systems can act. And those actions on the edge can be, for example, speaking to someone, turning on some lights, contacting someone via text or through our application or our apps or the web. And then these systems connect themselves to the cloud, where we have a powerful cloud platform which we store data on. We do cloud-based sensing, thinking and action, and we actually manage a lot of the data, which is accessible either by our custom apps or our web application or existing third-party video management systems or other alerts. And we can work very comfortably with third parties too. So an example on how this would work would be if you had a construction site, for example, where you wanted to keep it secure. The system is watching the site at night. It detects that there is some movement, which is the sensing. When it sees that with the camera, it then uses the processor to determine, using artificial intelligence, is that a person or a vehicle, for example? I'm not interested in the dog or the branches moving. So it removes all the false alarms, and then it can take an action, which might be to speak to the person and say, you've been identified, you're not meant to be here, please leave. It'll light them up. It'll then send an alert to your security guard via the cloud. It'll then start streaming the data live into the cloud, so it's stored safely, and you can watch it on your phone from the comfort of your home. And in fact, in some models, you can even speak to them directly whilst that's all happening. So this all happens either autonomously or by linking to people, which it does autonomously. We are quite unique. This is something that I did want to emphasize today. We sense, think, and act. So a typical CCTV camera just senses. It doesn't do any thinking, it just records images, it takes no action. It doesn't actually deter any crime, for example, or warn anyone of anything. So we provide a much more higher value solution because we can sense, we can think, and we can act. And that's very, very unique. The system is deployable remotely, and what makes it special about how we do it, because there are other solar-powered solutions out there, is our approach to managing very low power and very low data at a very low cost. Because we custom build our own electronics, we write our own edge-based firmware, and we've built our own cloud system, all of those things come together to allow us to do things that other people simply cannot do. We're able to deploy, for example, up to 4 cameras in 4K, providing video and AI, all on one edge platform, all on less than 300 watts of 12-volt power, for example. We integrate our solution, and what's important about that is not just that we can provide a simple solution where it's all in one app or one in web, but we can integrate to an existing video management system if it's part of someone else's security, or it's fully programmable. So if you have your own, for example, AI that you want to deploy on it, you can do that either on edge or in the cloud, or we can modify it to suit your application because we write the edge-based software and because we write the cloud software. And the last part of that is we're 100% Australian. Now, many people say they're Australian, but we're really genuinely Australian because we write our software here. We store our data in the cloud here. We build our hardware here, and no one else does that. And that allows us to do things in sensitive locations that no one else does it. I mentioned before a little bit about alternatives. You know, I mean, the biggest alternative that we have today is do nothing. The solutions that we provide are very much, you know, building a market. Instead of having a lifeguard, you can have a lifeguard spread over a much larger area because they're now complemented with a Spectur solution. Instead of saying, well, I can't have a security guard, well, now instead you can actually have something that does many of the attributes of a security guard and calls the person when it needs it. So this is what we do. Our biggest alternative is generally, oh, I can't do anything. I'll just have to accept the consequences. So a little bit about us as a business model. We have a diversified revenue stream. We have a portion of it that comes from equipment sales, which, and this is our Q3 data. It's about 32% of our business. About 55% of our business as at the end of Q3 was recurring revenue, which is made up of subscription for owned systems and also rentals. And then we have a services business, which is either professional services in terms of customizing software and hardware, or it's in things like installation, relocation support. You can see as well our growth trends are very, very strong, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. This is a proven business. Again, a key point I want you to take away. This is not a twinkle in the eye and we've got a fantastic idea and it's just going to come to life. This is a business that's been around a couple of years now, or more than that. We have more than 2.5 different sensors deployed around the country and into New Zealand and internationally today. We've got more than 600 customers today. This is not a, oh, I've got an idea and it'll be great. This is a real business. It's not a twinkle in the eye. You know, we are market leaders in a number of areas, in particularly in beach warning, but certainly we would be, you know, a major player in a lot of the security and solar AI applications as well. We have proven our customer product market fit. This is not a situation where I hope someone will buy it. This is not a segue. This is something that large numbers of customers are buying in high volumes. And now that we're getting ourselves free of COVID, or the impacts of COVID, for example, you can see our pipeline has substantially grown. And, you know, if you look at our weighted pipeline, and we've provided details on how we weight this in the past, using exactly the same measures, we're nearly double the same time last year. So even though we've had all this growth this year, and it's been a challenge last financial year, we've absolutely grown, but our pipeline now is nearly double what it was the same time last year, which I think provides a tremendous platform that underpins the short-term as well as the long-term growth of the company. Just, you know, a little digression into, you know, one of our very dominated niches is in beach warning systems. I think we mentioned in our announcement yesterday, we've sold an additional 8 emergency response beacons to Surf Life Saving New South Wales. This is a bit like what they look like on the right-hand side here. We've got 33 of these systems deployed today. There are 18 more that are sold and are going to be deployed very soon. Our pipeline today has more than 40 additional beach warning systems in it, which means we could have more than 90 of these on beaches around the country by the end of the year. Now that, you know, there's no one else that's playing in this space. This is hard to do. To make this stuff work day in, day out on the beach in an onerous environment is difficult. We're able to do it, and we're certainly dominating that space. And it's just an example of what we can do with what we're doing with our technology. So what does that opportunity look like? I mentioned a little subsector. You know, we're not trying to be all things to all people. The fox that chases many rabbits catches none. So we are fairly targeted. I mentioned before, you know, the size of the opportunity. You know, we are scratching the surface. 33 beaches, there's 12,000 beaches just in Australia. You know, if you look at some of these numbers here, local government, you know, we've got 49 councils we're servicing. We're not even 10% of the way there. Department of Defence, we're doing 4 bases. You know, there's a lot of opportunity. It's a very large opportunity in front of us just in Australia. And when you start to look at what that looks like if you go outside of Australia, today about 40 to 45% of our business is WA, which is where we came from. If you just scaled that across the rest of Australia and New Zealand, we'd be a $25 to $30 million business today. And then if you start looking at just 1 or 2 other states in somewhere like America, which we think is a very analogous market to us, then it becomes all of a sudden a very, very exciting opportunity with a huge amount of potential scope, particularly when you look at the rest of the world. So what does it look like? How are we going to take advantage of this? We have a very, very simple plan to execute and scale our business. And it's based on doing what we're doing now to a large extent. So ANZ market domination. We are going to build our pipeline out. We're going to hire more salespeople, particularly in South Australia. And then we're going to look to be onboarding more resellers. Now, we've hired salespeople before. We're in Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia, and Auckland today. We know how to do it. So that's de-risked. Resellers, 16% of our business today is resellers. We haven't pushed hard on it. We're going to start to push harder on it. So we know how to do that. That's the near-term sales channel. While we're doing that, we're making our product global ready. And what does that mean? We're just going to take the same solutions that we have, which have proven customer product market fit, and we're going to make them simpler to make. We're going to improve our gross margins. They're going to be more reliable. They're going to be easier to maintain and support, which will enable us to put it through more resellers and to make it easier for more people to become channels for us, which leads us to the next part of the process, which is that will give us a platform to go into other markets, of which the US is one that we're interested in as well. And again, we have a system that we're testing today in the US. We're actively engaging with DFAT and Austrade about getting their support through EMDG grants and their landing pads and other things to get us into the US. I have lived and worked in the US for many years as well. I know what this looks like. We're going to be able to take this thing and scale it at that level with both the technology platform that we've got and we're expanding on and where we're going. So, right, where do I want to finish? I want to leave you with just a couple of key points. Spectur solves high-value problems. And these problems, we've proven that we have a customer product market fit. You know, we have more than 600 active customers today, more than 2,500 systems deployed. This is a reliable, proven business. It is unique. There is no one else that has an edge programmable and cloud programmable platform that is solar powered like we have. We build it from our own electronics and our own software, both on edge and cloud. It's a unique platform. Then because of its uniqueness, it allows us to do a number of things that other people simply cannot. And that makes it very hard to replicate. And there's a very large accessible market that's in front of us. Even before we start looking at expanding into other technology or before we look at expanding into other markets, the moment we're quite focused, we don't want to be the fox that chases many rabbits and catches none. We're quite focused on what it is we're after. And we have a growth plan and it's simple. There's no cures for cancer required in our growth plan. We've de-risked it. It's do more of what we know how to do and do it in a sensible adjacent way to where we're doing it. And we believe that this is going to be a model that takes us through to profitability. And I think that's all from me. Oh, well, I do have one more slide, the obligatory capital structure slide, which came out in the deck before, but I don't have much to say about that. Patrick.
Thank you. Gerard, a number of questions. There was a question about how many beaches can this tech get rolled out across in Australia?
So at the moment, we have one customer, for example, that's planning to order 40. That's just one local government authority on top of the ones that they already have. Yep. So, you know, we see there's a lot of opportunity here. People have become more fearful and risks on the beaches are, you know, significant, whether it's sharks or tsunami or crocodiles or jellyfish or rips. There's a lot of reasons, and to be able to take finite resources from a life-saving point of view and really leverage that by giving people an opportunity to use these platforms makes a big difference. So we see that's got a, you know, orders of magnitude more growth in it.
Thank you. Richard's asked, do you think the market penetration Spectur has achieved in Australia can be replicated in overseas markets with similar demographics here? And if so, how would it be serviced? And can it be achieved with reasonable spending?
Yeah, so quite a few bits in that question. What I would say is, you know, there are things that we need to look for in a market. There needs to be sun. There needs to be rule of law. There needs to be, you know, a few things like that are pretty straightforward. So we're not trying to go into every single global market. But the other part of it is relates to capital intensity. And at the moment, we have a fully vertically integrated business from engineering, design, and manufacturing, full sales and service. Through the work that we're planning over the next 12 months, we're going to substantially reduce the amount of work that's involved in assembly and supporting these systems. And that's going to allow us to move into reseller channels that are not fully vertically integrated. And what that does is it substantially reduces the capital intensity of us moving into other markets. So we believe that there's absolutely a way that we can scale the revenue of this business substantially without requiring substantial capital investments through leveraging, reseller channels in particular.
Two people have asked about vandalism, so I'll ask Peter's version of the question. How do you avoid malicious damage to such isolated equipment?
So there's a couple of ways we do it. One is that in many cases the systems are not installed in isolation and they have overlapping fields of fire, I would say, or fields of view. So if someone is interfering with one, another one is observing that and recording that information. We also, in many cases, they are linked to guard services, and when someone is within range doing anything, the system is smart enough to know that they're there. We have a number of ways that we can tell if people are tampering, and I'm not going to say all of them online. We have a number of them, and they can call out a guard service. And the other thing is they're actually relatively difficult to tamper with. When the systems are about 5 meters up, the poles are not easy to scale, and you've really got to be very motivated to do it. And that takes a bit of time, and usually we've captured you. So it's a small, it definitely happens. The current versions are not bulletproof against high caliber rifles. So we know that. That will be something we have to think about if we go into America, how we deal with that. But generally speaking, it's not a huge issue, and we've learned how to manage that.
Look, I don't want to put you on the spot on this call, but there was a question around moving towards profitability. Where is there any comments around here, timing wise, that you want to make on this call?
Yeah. So obviously, we don't provide guidance on unless I've released it to the market and everyone knows it. I did mention we are planning to be profitable. The strategy plan that I gave you a very summary version of it there. Absolutely involves us becoming profitable within a finite period of time. And so, we're not kicking the can infinitely down the road. We definitely have a plan which we have modelled and which shows us becoming profitable. And it's within a very finite time period. And I don't think I can say much more than that without releasing another deck. So
yeah, so maybe, sounds like there is a bit of a watch this space to that. Okay, so where's your equipment manufactured?
So we get today, probably 80% of it is made in Welshpool in Western Australia. We do have some of our electronics made in Melbourne as well. That's more of the assembly of the PCBs gets done in Melbourne. And we write our software in Perth, in Melbourne as well, and Melbourne and Perth as well.
All right. Well, look, thank you, Gerard.